Such an honor to reconnect with a guy who I have really looked up to for many years, not just more as a person than as a player. A lot of times, if you have something to say in your music, it comes out in your life story. And with this cat, he tells the story of his life and what he's been through and the creative opportunities and the doors that he's gone through and chosen to go through and the ones maybe he hasn't. But all in all, I think at the end of the day, he's still creating new musical vocabulary, or at least creating the foundation for that opportunity with a myriad of different artists and on his own. Hubert Eaves, welcome back to the Jake Feinberg Show.
All righty. Hey, how you doing, Jake?
It's an honor, brother. Congratulations on the vice presidential pick from your home state of Minnesota.
That's right.
All right.
Just where I was born, St. Paul, Minnesota.
Yeah, but I remember. In all fairness, I don't know what way anything's going to go, but I'll tell you, I haven't seen somebody talk so succinctly in a political forum like that, maybe in my lifetime. It's a lot of times you'll get people that are very intellectual and very bright, but they don't necessarily have a lot of punch, or you'll get somebody who is a little bombastic but doesn't have these ways of sort of relating to regular folk. And I just, to me, when I watch him, it just exudes Minnesota. And it's like that conversation that McCoy had with you way back when, where, you were like, I'm scared to go to New York. And he's like, well, you're one of the cats and you belong, so you should go. And I just feel like that cat, when I saw him yesterday, I was like, wow, I think he'll be president one day.
Yeah. And he reminded me of a few people that I ran across coming up in St. Paul, Minnesota, that I went to school with. So I know that his humor and...
Exactly. Exactly. Everybody can say, like, I know that cat.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you, when you think back, Hubert, to like the earliest, like spoken word or rap, were you hip to groups like the Lost Poets? Who do you consider to be the sort of beginning guys that were doing sophisticated rap, poetry, music in your mind?
Well, it's funny. I hadn't thought about specifically the Last Poets, but now that you mentioned them, I would have to say them as well, because I remember we did when I was doing playing with Gary Bartz and different jazz groups. They were on the show with us.
They were.
Yeah.
This is unbelievable. So talk about that.
Yeah, and what's his name? Gil Scott-Heron?
Absolutely.
Yeah, so back then, we did it, but we didn't think of it as rap. It wasn't, they were rapping.
What was it? Because so maybe I just would love to talk to you this is your interview, so and it's your own interpretation. There's no right or wrong answer. When did that subtly change from... I don't even think it was spoken word. I don't know if they had a backing band when you guys were on those bills together, but the music swung pretty hard. But when did we go from poetry to rap? And you were I'm pretty sure you were there was a lot going on in New York right around the time of my birth in the late 70s. There was, and I don't pretend to even know exactly. I'll have to bring the quote up that I got from this guy, and I'll read it to you later in the interview. But I'm just wondering, terminology is, unfortunately, language is often key in our understanding or misunderstanding of stuff. And I just, people think that word rap, it came about, but it had been going on before that word came into existence.
Let me give you an interesting story.
Please.
I remember back in about 1981, maybe two. I had an attorney, and he said that he wanted to have lunch and connect me with a guy. This guy's name ended up being Russell Simmons.
Wow.
And so we shared the same attorney. So we go to lunch, and we sit down to meet and greet and so forth. And Russell wouldn't even look at me. He didn't want to shake my hand. He didn't want to have anything to do with me. And it was because I found out that I represented dance music. And that's what, back then D-Train was like had a #1 song and a #2 song, Keep On and You're the One for Me. So we were like at the end of the dance genre at that time. It was kind of starting to fade. But what Russell was doing was he was bringing in rap, and he had no respect for the dance community or any other community. He felt like rap was the new thing. It was going to be the biggest thing. And of course, I didn't know at the time what was going on. All I knew was this guy was an asshole.
Total asshole. I mean, dude, I can't. Wow, this is a mind-blowing story. Continue.
Yeah, and that was my feeling at the time. I'm being honest. I was like, wow, who is this dude? Can't even shake hands. I mean, I was, whatever the music genre was, I just thought like maybe, just as man to man,
yeah, I mean, that is just, God, man, somehow I'm not surprised. It is shocking, especially because this attorney, I don't know what he was thinking, but it's like, maybe he thought maybe he could somehow. He had to know Russell wasn't too happy about it. I don't know. The whole thing is bizarre.
I don't think he knew.
Really?
I thought he sincerely thought that there was some common ground that we could do a project on. Because the lawyer is about making money. And he thought maybe he could put us together and do a project, have a project together.
Absolutely.
Or something. So I understood that, and I respected that. But, I saw that he didn't Russell didn't respect me, and as a result, I was like, "Wow, I don't know who this guy is," and all. But of course, fast forward.
Oh my God! First of all, I want to be very clear to the audience. This happens a lot, not just in music, but you can say he didn't respect you, but I'd say he was disrespectful because he was projecting his insecurity on you. Clearly, I know that's where this is headed. Because that's not, you can't disrespect somebody who has success, which is what you were having. And go ahead.
No, go ahead. I didn't want to.
No, it's just it's like he didn't look at you, he didn't shake your hand. He's being disrespectful, but he's not it's coming from a place of insecurity. No matter how successful he got later on, in the coming decades. It doesn't matter. Like, I have people that come down on me sometimes, and it's like, I didn't do anything to them. So they're coming from a place of insecurity. And that's where he was coming from. Because, to me, what you were doing was completely modern at that time.
Right.
Anyway, no more psychology. Fast forward, you were going to say somehow these things tend to come full circle.
Yeah, and I think that he wasn't, when I look back at it in retrospect, he wasn't disrespecting me personally. He was disrespecting the genre. He was basically saying, down with the old, in with the new. We're going to take over the world, and I don't want to have anything to do with anything else but that. That's why I'm here in this meeting to move on. To bring forth something new, and he went on to do it.
Okay, I want to be clear from my own state of mind. I mean, we're talking about this is really important, man, because it's really good that we're having this conversation because you go back to big band music that was made. That was considered dance music of that time. You listen to esoteric funk. disco. That was dance music. The music that you were doing was dance music. Yet, am I hearing you correctly in the sense, because this is really where rap is at? I mean, I don't listen to a lot of rap, but when it does get pushed into my ears, it's all rhythm, right? It's all driven by rhythm. There's no melodies. There's no harmonies. There's nothing like that's constructing it into a song form that would make it danceable. You're basically getting off on the rhythm. So, in the sense that he was going to start something new, is just that it was straight rhythm beats poetry. Is that what he was so high up on and eventually made him a superstar?
No, because I beg to differ with
But,
you.
no. I mean, break it down. I mean, this is not my bag. I need you to go deeper on this.
Well, rap was more than just rhythm. It's also basically it is rhythm, but it was more than that. It was also rap, spoken word, and it was about how certain personalities, such as Run DMC and them, could bring forth knowledge of whatever it was that they were dealing with at the time on top of the rhythm. So, of course, they were really, at that point, it was like early stages, so that they weren't getting deep into politics and racial aspects of the,
right,
of the lyrics and so forth like they are now. But it's always had some kind of spoken word and teaching. It was deeper than just the rhythm.
I want to be clear. What was differentiating? Totally, absolutely. But I mean, we just said that guys like Gil Scott and the Last Poets were we didn't call it rap, but they were rapping. But what was the difference between what you were doing and what Russell Simmons was wanting? What his vision was?
Well, first of all, we were basically we were singing. You talk about. Let's just deal with the titles first of all.
Yeah.
Like let's say at the time we had a number one song with D Train called "You're the One for Me,"
right?
Which is about the love of a woman. And she's the one for me. She's the right one for me. Or keep on. We're going to keep on. Just keep on living. Keep on doing positive things and so forth.
Right.
But so those were the lyrics, and that was the messages of our songs, and to dance with those kind of messages. So sing along while you're dancing. We had melodies, we had chords, we had bridges, but then here comes along Russell and so forth, and they're basically talking to the kids of the streets who are tired of hearing about love songs, who at that time they wanted something different. They wanted some more rhythm. They wanted something new, like most kids do, and most genres and throughout history. They want the new things. They don't want to be associated with old.
I dig. You're at that is definitely a majority view of the youth, no doubt.
Yes, youth. That's the word I wanted. Yeah. So
no, it's true. They don't want to be stuck in an older bag, and a lot of those cats came up with the greatest soul music, but it was all very. I don't think like Trouble Man soundtrack was not uplifting. I felt like there was a sweet soul period in the mid to later '60s, and then once you got into Willie Hutch and Curtis and Donny Hathaway and Marvin Gaye. I mean, I don't know. There was some sweet soul and stuff in that music, but it was like talking about the real stuff. In the late '70s, early '80s, it was just getting darker. It was a darker time. Cats were searching for deeper, darker rhythm and messages.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Definitely. And then when dance music came along, as far as disco and so forth, they tried to brighten things up, right? So after the '70s, and you went into the like the late '70s, when disco, '80s, so forth came in, you added the strings and you added the melodies and the different things that lighten things up,
right?
Yeah. So
you make it more danceable, more buoyant, leave people happy, especially if they're all out of their minds on, and that was the other thing. I mean, we can't be naive to the fact that, in the 70s, drugs went from marijuana and LSD to hard drugs like cocaine,
Sure.
And that brings a lot more irrational urgency to the bandstand. You're not so interested in, well, anyway, I don't want to get too deep in the sociology bag. I'm just basically what Russell was saying was, I want raw street messages and I don't want any of the strings, and I don't want anything that. It was a kind of a mood thing.
Yeah, well, I don't even know if Russell knew exactly what it was at the time.
That's right. Yeah.
All I know is, he had his brother and their group, and what they were doing was raw. It was just a drum beat, drum machine, and then them rapping on top of it, and it was infectious, kind of. They had a look. They had their sneakers, their Puma sneakers, and their hats, and
dude, it was totally on. That must have been okay. So that was about 4 years old, but you're talking like 82ish, because I think that D Train album came out in 82.
Yeah. This would have been maybe 84, 85, something like that. Maybe.
Right.
But because it was, we were starting to fade out from, as rap was going, really getting strong. It was coming in strong. So, but that was, fortunately for me, on a personal level, I was as a teenager, I was a drummer, and I used to play dances. And in the local bands, I played drums for a lot of the dance clubs and so forth. So I always gravitated to the rhythm, and it didn't matter to me what you wanted to call it, rap, R&B, dance, whatever it was. I personally gravitated towards that, and to this day, I still do.
Sure.
So I welcome a certain amount of rap, even though we, I remember doing some stuff where we would go. I remember doing a show with D Train, and also The System was on. We were both on the show. We went to D.C.
Oh man!
And we were going to do a concert there. And D.C. at that time, they were into the music of Bogo,
yes,
which is and I remember us going there. And starting to getting ready to play, and as we got ready and went on stage, and I'm talking about both groups, the System as well as us, the people kind of looked at us like lukewarm. Okay, there's no dance music. Yeah, nice. Those were hit songs. Yeah, I remember those songs. Yeah, okay, nice. All right, but hurry up and get off so we can get to the Trouble Funk group with the Go-Go. And as soon as we got off and did our little thing, Go-Go, the Trouble Funk came on, and them folks went crazy. And it felt so good to me. And I just laughed. I just remember thinking, wow, okay, so this is what it is. This is where we're at now, too. And so whenever I see that kind of thing, because it's happened in a couple of different bands that I've been with, where you've seen how people respond to somebody else way above what you're doing. And I always try to figure out what is it I like. And it's always the rhythm. It's always the drums. It's always the energy and so forth. So I by being ex-drummer, like I said, I fell right into it, and I still do to this day. When I think of songs and aside from the fact that I like to write melodies and chords and ballads and all of that, when it comes time to do dance type songs, I definitely bring all that forth as well.
So you fell into that groove. I mean, did you say, was there some sort of like closure to the story with you and Russell? Did it come back around again?
No, we never talked again. I never seen him again, but I obviously heard about him, and rap took over, and it's still here. So I mean, the guy, I have to give it to him. He was very visionary in regard to what he had planned, and I know that he didn't even know how big it was going to be. But, I totally had to respect him for that. And, not everybody has to speak to me. So
absolutely not. No, I mean, he it's Do you feel like I don't want to make this overly simplistic, but when you had that Run DMC, that first iteration of rap, when it was a look and it was just cats riffing over a drum machine, uh, was that the end of? Was that really the beginning of? I don't want to speak in broad terms because there's still beautiful compositions being made, and um, people are writing a lot of original tunes in the jazz idiom, so to speak, but it's no longer really a popular music. And was that the end of the Great American Songbook, so to speak? I don't even know if that's even the right thing, but what I'm saying is that it just became a lot less about melody and song form and a lot more about just gritty rhythms. I mean, people will say, I mean, today, what was Pete Seeger and the Weavers, what was considered folk music of the 60s is now rap music of the 21st century. And I just wonder if you could talk a little bit about, like, was that the beginning of the end of the Great American Songbook? Or did that happen earlier?
Well, I guess I would say that happened earlier, because even disco, when it came about, it changed the structure of songwriting and so forth. It became more orchestral and not so much song structure the way that we came up with of songs back in the earlier times with more jazzy chords or more folk type chords, which were had more movement to them, had more structure in that sense. It still became there was still once the disco came in and so forth, it added the orchestral aspect of it all, and then with the rhythm. But the only problem was that I thought was the rhythm became stale. It became structured and it became monotonous. That's the word I was looking for. And so people, after a while, you could understand why something had to take over from that, because, once it's like what rap is now. So you could even fast forward to like now. So, once you just dominate with a particular genre to the point where people gravitate to it because it's the same and they want to keep doing it over and over and over. And something's got to change. People have always found ways to say, okay, enough. I can't handle it anymore. What's next? And then the creative people who are going to be the ones at that particular time who want to change things or have a new vision, are the ones who are going to create the next genre or the next wave or so forth. And, what is different now today, though, is you got so many outlets. You got, with the internet and all of the different social media outlets and so forth. So now it's just wide open.
Well,
now.
No, let me ask you. That's interesting you bring that up because, I'm curious, like Aretha Franklin, Gary Bartz, I'm just trying to think, Average White Band. I mean, and I'm talking like late 60s, like there was a bar that you had to clear in order to get a record produced, to get it pressed and get it out. I'm just, that was the way it was. What you were hearing on the radio, Les McCann, Aretha, the Crusaders, that was the top of the top. I mean, that was a good enough to get pressed. Okay, so and the same thing with the early rap music. I believe you had to clear a certain bar, and what I mean by that is, like, today, yes, you have all these outlets, but like I consider my show to be very unique, and in some cases very inspirational, and in some cases very effective. And that's just my opinion. But the problem is, because we're saturated with material and because anybody can put something out, we are saturated not just in visual material, we're saturated in complete mediocrity, which means you have to seek and search for what used to be something that was cut. You knew it had to clear a certain bar. So I just look at today's world. Yes, people have access to everything, but that makes it harder because we're awash in mediocrity, Hubert. I mean, we're just awash in it. And the stuff that anybody was doing, whether it was the cuts you were doing with D-Train, even the Gloria Gaynor stuff, I don't care if you liked it or not, it was still, you had to clear a professional bar because there was this, we were still like an auditory disseminating society. I mean, you'd cut the record, it would get radio play, and that's how it worked. And I just wonder, I mean, I hear people say that all the time. Oh, everyone's got everything at their fingertips. Well, they do, but that's like walking into a classical record library of 1 million records, and you got to find a needle in a haystack to find that really pristine, the one that you know is the truth. Do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah, but okay, I understand what you're saying. And what I'm saying is, okay, so you find that one that's the truth, and it gets recognized as the truth.
Right.
And then somebody else says, oh, that's the truth. Let me follow that and make sure and get some truth in there in my song. Somebody else says, oh, I want some of that truth too.
Yeah.
And then the next thing you know, everybody's got truth. And the next thing you know, the market is overly saturated. Just like it happened with dance music, and now it's happening with rap. People are starting to run away from rap and starting to say, oh, this is getting ridiculous, especially since the violence and different things have happened in it. And now it's gotten so sexual and,
man, it's like, exactly. It's gotten really like.
It's cookie cutter now.
That's interesting. It's appealing to our lowest common denominator too.
Yeah, it's got that, and then you got some, but it's not all that. Now remember,
exactly. No, I don't want to paint with a broad brush. I get it. I'm just saying it's harder to find the real. You didn't have as many options before. If something tanked, it tanked. But if something cut above, I mean, when you guys going back to the D-Train album, which I just found a copy in Long Island when I was back there, and this guy in the store was like, another record cat went up and he saw that I had it. He goes, wow, this is cool. I'm like, why? He's like, because you normally don't find this record in good shape. Normally you got the scratched, it's just been DJ'd to death. But at that time, was there anything that cut above everything else? I just feel like you could have more choice. I guess here's the bottom line, Hubert. In talking to you, you found the N2 Troop record in California for 47 cents. Never in your wildest dreams did you think you'd wind up playing with Gary Bartz. Thelonious walks into the club one night. It's his birthday. You're playing around midnight and he winks at you. You were a seeker. You have to be a seeker. And I guess, you know what? If you're that driven, you will seek. But too many people, because they think the technology is the end all be all, then they just succumb to the superficiality. They're not going to be able to have the gumption to search for that needle in a haystack, is what I'm getting at.
Yeah. It's not for everybody, for sure.
But you just have to be a seeker. I mean, when you like, I want to read this to you for a minute. I don't know if you ever came across the Burbridge brothers, Oteil and Kofi. They're a little bit younger than you. I wanted to read you this and then get your feedback on it. This is from Kofi, who left us tragically a few years ago. He's an amazing multi-instrumentalist. He said, I was 2 years old when I moved out of the Bronx, although I am hip to a lot of the culture that came out of there. One big thing for me was learning the history of the actual gang life. This is pre-African Bambaataa, but African Bambaataa has damn near everything to do with the aftermath. Robert Moses and putting this road through the boroughs and people dispersing, and then all of a sudden it just went down. The Bronx just went completely down, and people trying to survive in those conditions afterwards, that was a heavy thing to learn. The one thing that stops the violence was the music. The movie Warriors was done in the 70s and is based on a true story about gangs and gang violence in the Bronx. There was a guy who came up to give peace talks about stopping all violence, and he was killed on the spot. The movie Warriors tries to portray this in many different ways. What happens after that was most gangs realized, quote, look, we're coming down on each other just trying to survive, but we should really be putting our heads together and fighting in a different way. That was one of the most enlightening things I learned about the Bronx. Eventually, it led to bringing more people together, and one side of the borough was able to go visit their girlfriend on the other side of the borough. What opened the door was dancing, street dancing, twirling on your hands, twirling on your head. That became the new competition, along with Curtis Blow and African Bambata, and so many, many others. There were spinners and guys playing records. Dancing was the street thing. You'll find this a lot in, quote, Rubble Kings. It is so informative about how that change came about, how they got into it, how it started, how it changed over time into music, and how the music itself healed that violence. I just feel like that was your. I mean, that. I guess he's talking about the sort of the bulldozing of the Bronx, and I'm not sure if you lived there or ever did live there, but I kind of wanted you to just riff on that and how that was basically how much of that sort of societal change and uprooting and violence fed into your artistic work in the early 80s about trying to heal people through music.
Well, I remember our song D-Train was, You're the One for Me, was 1981 when it hit big. So we were in all the clubs in New York.
Wow.
We were traveling around. And so when we would do our shows, either before the show and then during intermissions of our shows, the break dancers would come out. And this was new.
Oh, I love it.
Then.
Oh, I love it.
So we were right there in it, right in the beginning of it.
Wow.
Yeah. And so at the time, it was so new and it was so creative that all we could do while we were waiting to go on or after we'd come off, whatever, from the show, we would watch them. James and I, we would watch what they were doing and the music that they used and so forth. So we got to see it all. And it was, even like the battles that they had with each other, it was, it was enlightening and it was also creatively done, and it was positive. It was joyous, man. It was like man, it was enlightening is the best.
Man, I tell you, I got goosebumps. To me, the word is inspiring, actually.
Yeah.
I mean, because on top of that, you guys are jammed up because your music's everywhere in every club, and you're performing, and then on your set break, instead of going to get a beer or talking and schmoozing in the back room, you're actually witnessing a new artistic medium right in front of your eyes happening.
Right in front of our eyes. And then we also did shows with, fast forward, going a little bit further into it with Curtis Blow.
Wow.
A lot of the name guys that were into, the beginning stages of it. So, in fact, there were some times when I said, I would feel like, oh, this bull, that's some BS. Because some of them, they had hit records or street records, we would call them. And but the performances were like, get out of here.
Yeah, right. Wait, hold on. I want to go back. Street records meaning not done at a professional production level, and then they couldn't pull it off live.
No, I didn't mean it like that.
Yeah.
I meant that they were underground records.
I did.
They weren't records that made the radio or anything like that. But people up in the Bronx and so forth who were into the real making of the of the real rap records from the beginning, they knew about it. There was an underground media that only they knew about.
Was it getting played on pirate radio in the Bronx, or was it just being played out on the streets and stuff?
Just out on the street.
Dude, that is so ridiculous. This is so mind-blowing, dude. Because this is really not in my wheelhouse, but to know that you were... So wait. Excuse me. Your live shows consisted of... Can you talk about the instrumentation on the bandstand during your sets? Obviously aside from what was going on in the discotheques with people playing D Train's hits, I mean, when you played a live show, what did that look like?
Okay, well, actually, when we started off, it was James, the lead singer of D Train, and myself, who did the production and keyboard work and so forth. So James would sing live. And what I would do is I would bring a keyboard and I would pantomime or fake. That's
right.
The real word, as if I was playing alone. But then after I did a couple of those, my musicianship in me said, I can't do this. I can't fake this. So I started bringing the keyboard in and plugging it into the system and making sure that I was actually playing along. And then when we would get to the end of the songs, James and I would do, we would jam on the end of the song and, kind of just like do a live version between he and I, so that people knew who it was who really did it, and that there was no faking, and that plus they were able to see us live, and whatever we did extra, they were a part of it. So
was he? I'm sorry. You had double keyboards going, or what instrument did he play?
No, I still played along with. I had one keyboard. I had my Prophet 5, which I still have to this day.
Dude, that Prophet 5, that was so cutting edge at that time.
Yeah.
Hold on for a second. But no, I'm saying D Train. What instrument did he play? Is he a singer, or did he play keyboards?
No, he sang.
So he sang, but he was really singing though.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
He was really
singing, and then there were these backing tracks to emulate basically you were playing the hit tracks, right? I mean, you were playing those things.
Yeah, but I had so many keyboard tracks going on the records, overdubs and different things that I had done. So there was no way I could do that with one keyboard.
Right.
No way. So, and it was just he and I were the group at that time. So, because here's why it happened like that, because when You're the One for Me came out, it took off so fast and so big that we didn't even have time to put together a group. People started asking, we need D-Train, we want D-Train in the club. We want to hear people want to hear the song, blah, blah, blah. So we just decided to do what they call track dates, which is where you play the track, the music track, and then have a mic open so that the singer, James, in this case, could sing live. And then, like I said, I pantomimed at first the keyboards as if I was, I looked kind of like I was playing it, but I really wasn't.
Dude, I would have been front row being like, dude, come on, brother Eaves, take it out, take us out, man,
Yeah, and there were people that would look at me and they knew that I was and I couldn't take it. I said, no, you guys are not going to do that to me. That's all me playing on them records. So, okay.
Well, so hold on for a second. I mean, this is really important. You would, because if you had all those overdubs, I mean, you only have two hands. So when you actually decided to really play, you couldn't exactly, unless you just went into some jam that didn't necessarily emulate the actual hit tune.
Well, what I would do is I would take the main parts of the song, the key parts that people knew,
right?
And
you drop that out of the mix and then play it real.
Yes. Now there's a song like there's a song okay. So for example, I don't know if this is going to translate. But You're the One for Me was one of the main parts was, right?
Oh yeah.
And some of the main rhythms was, right?
Oh my God! Yeah.
So I could do all those parts at once. Just those parts, but now all the other parts that I had, the different swirls and different kind of effects and stuff like that, I just kept those in the bed. But the rhythm parts, I would play those live with James as the song would fade out, and people loved it because He could ad lib. I could ad lib.
So, but I want to be clear though. All the other stuff, like you didn't have. Did you have enough like sequencers to program all the other things going on, or it just dropped out to those main hits with him singing?
No sequences, nothing. There was
Nothing.
never
Okay,
any
this
sequences.
is unbelievable. So the pantomiming, you were like, I got to drop this bit, but it was, and also I think was Howard King on drums on the record. Is that who played drums?
Yeah. There was never any sequences on those records.
So you didn't have a chance to put a band together. So you did. What do you call them? Tracks? What kind of gigs did you do?
Yeah, they're called track dates.
Track dates, and so you didn't have a real human drummer though.
No.
Was that because that was sort of the mod sound with the drum machine going on, or because I mean, I guess.
No, listen. Let me clarify this.
Yeah.
Once the songs dropped out, and the DJ stopped playing the record, the actual record, right? Then James live would keep the mic going and sing through the mic, and I would. My keyboard would be coming through the system.
Wow.
So all it was James and myself. But now the audience, because we had already established the song, they had already heard the song, they were clapping. So they provided us the rhythm, the drums.
Damn.
They were already there. All we did was fade right into the what the groove was that from the record.
This is unbelievable. I mean, this is the great. I mean, was there anything? I can't even imagine. I don't know. I got to get my head together right now.
Well, I can. You know what? It's on YouTube. You can go to YouTube and see it.
You're talking about a live track date is on there?
Yes. Yeah.
Like I can get a visual representation of it.
Oh yeah. Yep. Yeah. You'll see us. One of the songs we did was "Walk On By" Burt Bacharach.
Sure.
Once we get to the end of it, James takes over, and then I take over with him, and the audience is standing there live. This is, I think we recorded this in Europe, Top of the Pops, I think it was.
Absolutely.
If you type in. I think either Hubert Eaves or D Train Live and Top of the Pops, something like that. It's there.
Now I want to ask you this. This is another interesting question because this is more of a marketing thing. But I remember speaking to Gil Scott when I interviewed Brian Jackson when the bottle came out on Strata East. That went off like what you're describing with. You're the One, where it just took off so quickly, and they didn't have a distribution arm to be able to keep up with it. They had boxes of records in their kitchen. I mean, they couldn't even get the records out. The radio stations were demanding more and more and more. It was a small label, and I just wonder, like, so on top of the fact that you didn't have time to put a band together, did that album? Did that album wind up selling a lot of records, or were you also overwhelmed from the distribution point of it?
Well, let's put it like this. First of all, it was on Prelude Records, which
what was that? They were a subsidiary of. I've seen that label.
No, they were their own label at the time, and they were a dance label. That was their focus.
Okay.
And they had a pretty good distribution setup, so that wasn't the issue. The issue for us was that there were records that were sold that we didn't know about. They sold more records than we were told and accounted for. So that was the biggest problem we had. We know that record was all over the world and so forth, but the payments and as a lot of other artists have dealt with at that particular time, it did not reflect that.
Now, explain. Now, what the older cats used to talk to Brian and Gil about was always, and I know the cats gave you the same talk, was get your publishing. So you were, the idea there was like, you didn't have sort of the real, like, speaking of getting that. Speaking of that lawyer that put you and Russell together, you didn't have legal representation. Is that it?
No, we had legal representation, but here's the thing: if you got a record company and they're telling you that they sold 200,000 copies, but that record is actually sold 600,000 copies, you have to be able to prove that. You know what I mean? You have to be able to go. And if the record company, depending on how their business is set up, they may have 2 or 3, 4 different sets of books. There's different kinds of ways that you have to try to be able to afford to be able to penetrate and
absolutely, dude. This is like Trump Incorporated right here. You know,
exactly.
Dude, I can't believe I am getting a doctorate this morning on this stuff. This is so you're fairly confident, or you know that the kickback to you with the money that you were owed was much larger than anything you ever got.
Oh yeah. Oh, no question about it. No question. And it's not only me. There's many of us at that time, especially back then, and of course even now. But it's not as easy to do it to artists now because everything is tracked digitally. You know, you have what's called ISRC codes now, which are codes that are embedded into your songs so that digitally they're picked up. That's like when you have like Shazam, which is an app which you can hold up to. You hold your phone up once you download the app, and if you hear a song, you can hold it up in the air, and it'll pick it up and it'll tell you what song it is, where you can buy it, and so forth, because Shazam read the code. It hears it, and then it'll tell you what the code is. But back then, we didn't have anything like that. You had to take what the record company told you was the amount of sales that you got, and then they can start saying, well, we put this much into a video for you. We put this much into promotion. We put this much into manufacturing. And so you owe us.
Oh, my, dude, this is making me a little sick, actually.
Yeah.
I'm not a naive cat, but I also know, like, I guess, so it's still going on today. It's harder because everything is quantified and the bean counters have gotten involved, and that's kind of good for the artists themselves. But in order to, basically, whatever money that you were making, if you really wanted to get to the bottom of the truth, you were going to spend all your money on lawyers getting to their 7th book that they were hiding all the stuff.
Exactly. Yep.
Brother Eaves, man, I am so humbled right now. Can we, do you think, because I have to go, we've just been burning here for 50 minutes. Do you want to, can we do it? We got more to talk about. I definitely want to talk about what you're up to right now. Can we do something like next week?
Sure. Because I definitely want to focus on right now because I just released a new album.
Well, no, that's what I want to talk about.
Yeah. Okay.
Sure. So why don't we just plan for, if if it works, why don't we just do this time noon a week from today?
Okay. What date is that?
Let's see. That would be the 14th at noon Eastern.
Okay. Let me just pencil that in. Right. I'll put that in mind.
And we'll just do like 30 minutes strictly on what the new album.
Okay. That's the 14th, you said?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Let's see.
Or it doesn't have to. It can be whatever day works for you. I mean, I'm pretty open.
Okay. We'll go with that. I usually have sessions with my engineer on Wednesdays, but lately we've been transferring it over to Tuesdays. So that would be the only thing but I'll let you know in plenty of time.
Yeah, no. Text me at this number. Let me know what's up. But I mean, I'll pencil it in, and we'll definitely hit on what you're doing right now. I always get caught up. It's so good to hear Well, it's not so good to hear. By the way, I mean, do you have publishing rights on those tunes?
Of course.
So you're still seeing residuals from that stuff.
Of course, yeah.
Thank God. Thank
Yeah.
God. I mean, there's some kind of justice, dude. Jesus.
I was smart enough. So a guy told me as a teenager, I believe I was about 18 years old, and there was a guy in St. Paul, Minnesota, who he was one of the only guys that I looked up to because he took care of his business, and he would tell me, get a publishing company. And I would ask, how do I do that? What is a publishing company? Blah, 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 blah. And he walked me through it. And I had my own publishing company since I'm 19, 20 years old. So all of my stuff has had that, you know. So I've always maintained that, you know. There's been there's been times where I've had to work a couple of different deals in regard to it, but I was always able to maintain and get things back and be able to be in control.
All right, my brother. It's so good to hear your voice, and we'll do it again next week.
All right, now do me a favor. Let me ask you this.
Go ahead.
Do you have a copy of my new album? Have you heard it? Are you?
Can you send it to me via email, or can you send it to me electronically?
What I can do is I can give you my website address.
Okay.
It's on there. So if you go to HubertEavesIII.com.
And it's available for streaming there?
Yeah.
Well, then I will do a deep dive into that before we hit next week.
I have two of them. I have it's called Drops Volume 1, and then I have More Drops Volume 2, which is the instrumentals of those.
They got my work cut out for me.
Oh, yeah. Well, all you need to do is focus on, you know, a couple of them. And you get a
no. It'll be good fodder for the conversation. So thank you for hitting me to that.
Yeah, and I want your listening audience to know about that because it's a special project to me, and you know, anything that I do from this point on is going to be probably different. But I needed to get this one out of the way because it was dedicated to my dad. So.
Hey, man, blessings to your dad. All right, man, I'll listen to it. You got my word.
Okay, I believe there's some good stuff on there that you'll find some good stuff on there.
I know I will.
So will your listening audience. So.
All right, dude. Just stay in touch via text. If you want to switch it up Tuesday, Wednesday, just let me know.
Okay. All right. Good to hear from you too, man. Thanks.
All right, brother. Be cool.
You too.
Later.
Right. Later. Peace.
Bye. Continuing on our conversation from last week, decorated artist and producer, coming out with More Drops, Volume 2, instrumentals, Hubert Eaves. Welcome back to the Jake Feinberg Show.
Hey, Jake, what's up? And you and your whole listening audience. Yes.
Hey, I really liked what I heard going through some of these clips on your website. Some standards. What was the, in terms of Round Midnight, My Foolish Heart, just sort of those great American, well, at least part of the Great American Songbook and jazz. How did you approach, or how did you approach turning those songs into your own?
Well, I've always loved the songs, first of all. So, you know, it's interesting. You know, a lot of people only know me from my D-Train catalog or the R&B stuff I did with Mtume and a lot of Stephanie Mills and people like that, Roberta Flack and so forth. So they never heard, and I never really focused on my more jazz background, which, you know, I spent a lot of years in playing many jazz clubs and so forth.
Well, let's be clear. The Jake Feinberg, we honed in on that in a big way. We from the beginning. That was the Hubert Eaves. That whole thing is where, and what's amazing is the way you've reinvented yourself over time. But I just want the people to know, if they want to go back and check out first interview, it is completely dedicated to your journey, journey in jazz, and actually, I mean, you told it before, but like we talked about that legendary night with Thelonious Monk on his birthday, playing around midnight. Go ahead.
Right. And so, with that in mind, that song was one of my favorites, and I wanted to pay tribute to him, to Thelonious. And because I used to play drums as a youngster and so forth, and I'm very attuned to rhythm. And when I used to play organ trios back in the day too, I used to have to play bass with my left hand and all. So it kind of, having those foundations of bass and drums are always in me. So when I think of arranging a song, I think of today's rhythms, or how I would want, or how I can incorporate today's rhythms with yesterday's harmonies and melodies, and so that's really what that's about. And same with My Foolish Heart. I just felt like that's just the way I heard it. It's just the way when I sit down to play it, I hear the drums and the bass in my head in terms of how I want it to feel. I may have to flesh it out a little bit. It might take a little, a day or two or three or four or five or six, but it'll come to me, and then that's when I put it down.
Well, I want you to go a little bit deeper on this, because you're somebody that has been able to survive and thrive as a musician because you've been hip to the current beats and the sounds. That's the only, and so I just want you to talk about modern rhythm, because what I'm hearing is, it's just so hard for me, Hubert. Like, although I am getting better at it, especially in the live setting, because when my friends are incorporating loops or beats into more angular jazz kind of vibe, I dig that. But I woke up this morning and it's like, you remember that label Music -1, MMO? They had all those instructional records on drums and horns, and there's one, it says Dig This Now, and I threw it on, and it's like Hank Jones, George Duvivier, Charlie Persip, and it's just like the most mellow but beautiful swinging music. And when I listen to those tracks that you put out, it's clearly modern rhythm. It's modern. It seems quantized. And I just wanted you to talk a little bit about incorporating the soul of what you remember from those organ trios and then putting it into a modern day rhythmic context, because it just comes across as, I don't know what the right word is. It's just very up and down.
Well,
as opposed to Freddie Waits and I'm not trying to be nostalgic. It's just, it's not round, and it's not like, it doesn't seem it doesn't seem round. It just seems modern. And that's fine. That sells.
Well, because like you said, the first interview we did, I came up through that period of playing R&B and soul music and so forth. So to be able to come to New York and play with guys like, fast forward, Freddie Waits and so many
oh my God, Howard King,
yeah, so many great drummers, so many great horn players, so many great singers and so forth. So I came up playing live, but at the same time, like a lot of the stuff when we started doing more R&B stuff, Stephanie Mills and so forth, we would lay things down to a click track. And, the main reason would be because, if you're looking to do a dance song or R&B song, you don't want the tempos to go speed up or slow down, even though, they can, and some people will never even notice. But
yeah, that's what I'm saying. Continue. This is really important. Go ahead.
Yeah, so you want to make sure that the timing is right. So whoever is playing the drums or programming the basic the base of the song in terms of rhythm, that's locked solid. Now everything else on top of that, depending on who you are as a producer, you can either stick to that or you can play around with that and let it breathe, and that's what I try to do with even with the songs I did with Foolish Heart and Round Midnight. When I play, of course, I'll lock in the drum rhythm, but when I play on top of it and record around it, I'm playing live. I'm not sequencing, my parts and the parts that I have guitar players play. And so all of that, so it's loose, but it still has to have that base of locked in timing so that it's smooth and it's, but a lot of people just strictly stay with the machines and make sure things are quantized and perfect and all that. I can't deal with that. Because of my live experiences and all, and that's who I am. I try to make sure everything else stays live, other than the drums. And even if I've got a live drummer playing, I want him to start off with a click track just to make sure that everybody keeps time to that. And then we can play all around it, any place you want, but make sure we always know where the actual time is. If that makes sense.
No, that is complete. This is so beautiful. I would love you can't tell me, maybe you can, that all those cats that Omar Clay, Freddie Waits, Max Roach, I don't bass, left-hand bass is a little bit different, but I just feel like all those guys would say, you need to know where the pulse is as a unit. Again, this is playing live versus something in the studio. Did you find, playing with these people that we revere, Omar Clay, Freddie Waits, Howard King, did you find that maybe it wasn't metronomically perfect, but it wasn't like, you listen to all the records you did, it doesn't sound like there's tempo shifting going on. To me, it's just like, as the idea of, I'm not saying that metronomes have been used since the beginning of time, but I guess that's just sort of my whole thing is like, why do people need that? Why, if you're a legitimate pro, why would you even need to rely on that?
Well, let me clarify something that's really, really, really important.
Please.
And I want to make sure that you and your listeners understand where I'm coming from with that.
Yeah.
When I'm playing with live jazz cats or people, and even R&B people, when we're playing live, we're not thinking in terms of a drum machine or locking in a metronome or anything. No, because you're playing with drummers that are usually so good that they know where the time is.
Yeah, right.
And there's a certain feel that, you don't have to have a drum machine there. And we lock to them. I was mainly speaking specifically about recording in the recording studio.
Totally, dude. And I'm still going to push back. Again, I'm just naive because I know they do this. But even in the recording studio, in your experiences, did you with them? How far back have you used click tracks? I don't feel like those N2 Troop albums, there was any kind of click track. I guess why even why not if you're bringing in somebody? Listen, if you're bringing in a real drummer in the studio, if Hubert Eaves is bringing in a drummer, that drummer can obviously play. You're not bringing in somebody who's wet behind the ears. So why not let them feel that pulse, and then everybody can groove around that.
And that's exactly right. That's what we do. I was specifically, and I shouldn't have. My bad. I should have made
no apologies.
Perfectly clear.
Yeah.
That I'm speaking strictly about doing R&B and dance.
Dig
type songs,
dig.
As opposed to, playing jazz songs. Because if I brought in Omar or somebody in my studio and we were going to do a jazz or just play, I'm not using a click track. No. No, I would not for that. But if somebody said, okay, I need you to do a dance song, or I decided I wanted to do a dance song, that's when that would come in play.
I dig. So talking about these jazz standards that you did, is that part of you wanted to make them R&B and dance tunes? So you had the click, or you didn't have a click on those jazz?
No, I had a click on those. I wanted to make sure that everything was locked in, because, and especially, today, we're doing remote type sessions.
Sure.
So if I do a session, I got the piano and the bass and locked down, and I'm going to send it out to a guitar player in California, which I did. Phil Hamilton, one of my favorite guys. He'll play to it, and he needs to feel exactly what I have in mind. Now we're going to get rid of that click track after it's done, anyway. But I want him to know that this is the groove. You can play all around this beat, because we got a drummer that's coming in, and he's going to play around the click track, and we're going to wipe it. I want everything to feel loose. I don't want it to feel like it's a click track, or it's recorded with quantization, and I don't want that feel. But I do want to make sure that if the tempo is 107, basically, that it stays that. I don't want it to speed up and slow down. And, I've done that with jazz. You could, a lot of stuff we've done that where we would do a song, and we'd start off at one tempo and play the melody. By the time we got to play the melody before we took the song out, it's almost sometimes twice as fast.
I mean, that's the magic. I don't care, man. I'm just so... That's me.
No, it's cool.
Yeah,
it's
man,
cool.
I know. It's more live. It's live jazz, yeah.
Yeah, and that's cool for that,
yeah.
But you still would rather have a drummer that could maintain that tempo.
And let's be very clear. This is a modern, this is not something that's artsy. I mean, this is stuff that people are doing wholesale in the record. Do you remember the first time that you, I don't want to say outsourced, but you snail mailed or emailed somebody like Phil, like this Cat Hamilton, to do a guitar solo? I mean, you weren't. I don't think you were doing that. You might have been doing overdubs with them, Mtume. But I mean, how did you feel when you first started to outsource solos to people that were not in the same, area code as you?
Well, this basically happened because of COVID. You couldn't get together with people.
I believe this was going. I mean, if the advent of just amazing technology. If people wanted a guy in Sweden, they could send him the track and have him overdub it. I just, so that was going on before COVID. I just wonder, when you look back at that, how much enhancement, if at all, do you do with someone like Hamilton to make the song feel like the flow? There's nothing that can replace the cats in the room together. Even, the overdub, yes, but that idea of synthetic transfer, that idea of just the synthetic handoff is right then and there, just somebody being who you are. I guess here's the better question, Hubert. When did you just kind of surrender to the idea of not being some kind of recording studio purist? You were like, we want to get it done, we want to make it good, and I'm not going to get hung up on things that that might have been considered taboo in jazz. I'd love you to talk about how you just sort of surrendered to the muse in any kind of creation you've had.
Well, let's say, first of all, it's about picking the right cats that you're going to interact with, because, not everybody can interact like that. And there's certain levels of cats that can do it and bring it to a certain level that can make it feel that it's natural. Right. I mean, it's so different than overdubbing. That's been going on for years and years and years. It's like singers would come in back in the, in the jazz era, Nat King Cole and Frank Sinatra and all. They were overdubbing.
Right.
So in a lot of cases, not all cases, of course, but back then, that's been going on for a long time. So people would overdub, and they wouldn't be in the room at the same time as the orchestra played or the band played, and so forth. So it's basically the same thing. It's just that now we've got guys that like Phil Hamilton who have their own studio in California, or whoever a drummer is, Brian Dunn, who's done stuff for me, who's in I forget where he's at, but he, if I needed a certain type of drum part, or my son, they know the sensitivity of what I'm going for, and that's the reason I call them, because I know that they know it.
I dig. Do you feel like you were ever somebody who, it's the 50th anniversary of the, the first real sort of crossover jazz album that went viral, which was, the Headhunters album with Harvey Mason. And that was recorded at Wally Heider's. And I don't even think that there may have been a couple of baffles, but there was no drum booth. It was everybody hitting at the same time. Maybe Bill Summers did some overdubbing with the African whistles and stuff. Is that something that is completely obsolete now? Is that something that I don't know? It would be very hard for me to, as a musician, to know that kind of human intimacy and quality of it, and then sort of piecemeal it together. I mean, Harvey Mason, there was no isolation. It was everybody hitting it together. And what I'm sort of gathering, not just from you, but it's just not even an option anymore, because studio time is completely unreasonable. Trying to get everybody in the same room at the same time is somehow not feasible. So it just doesn't even make any sense. I mean, it's obvious for the cost reasons and just the practicality of it. That ship has sailed.
I think we're there are a lot of people that are still doing that and are going to keep doing it, and it's probably going to get even more popular as people get tired of.
You come back around, yeah.
Yeah, coming back. It's going to come back around. All this stuff to me is all about cycles, and that's what I try to be aware of at all times, as well as be aware of myself and always try to stay true to who I am. Right. But at the same time, there's cycles, and there's, you're right. The electronic cycle was, I remember when I first did all the D-Train stuff back in the 80s, other than the click track that I would lay down for Howard King to play to, from that point on, everything else was live. There was no sequencing. There was none of that, everything was live playing. So at the same time, you fast forward, and here we are with all the electronics, and with Raptor came in, a lot of the technology that came along with it through the years made things easier and easier and easier, simpler, but only Roy Haynes said something to me, the famous drummer, jazz drummer,
God, yeah.
World drummer. I asked him one time, I was playing in his band, and I asked him, I said, Roy, so where do you think the music is going? I might have said this on the first episode.
No way, I'm loving this.
I said, Roy, we were taking a break, sitting at the bar. I said, man, where do you think the music is going to go? And he said, wherever the strong cats take it.
He said, I'm sorry, the strong cats?
Wherever the strong cats take it, that's where the music is going to go.
Fast forward to that breakfast you had with Russell Simmons, right?
Right, yeah. Right. So that was back in the 70s.
You were playing with Marvin Hannibal Peterson band. Was that the band you were playing in?
Yeah, Marvin.
Oh my God, Eaves was in that band.
Pate was on bass.
Wait, who was on bass?
Don Pate.
Dude, one of the cats I still haven't talked to yet. That dude is a monster.
Yeah, he's still around.
I know he is. I got to get to him.
Oh, I got to get to him too. I'd love to talk to him, man.
He is so sick. I mean, okay, this is interesting. When you talk about with D Train, aside from the click track for Howard to just know the time where the one is or downbeat, can you talk about the brilliance of Eaves being able to, and what it means to not have that sequencing? You were just I'm not saying improvising, but you had to have that sequence in your head, right? I mean, you had to riff off the cuff in some ways. You didn't have computers running this stuff.
No. It's just, as a live player, I came up as a teenager playing in clubs and dances and live stuff. So, it's just who I am. So if I'm playing along with the drummer, and I'm playing along a bass line or whatever, I'm locked into the drummer, whether it's a click track or not. Whatever that groove is, that's where I'm going to lock into.
Mm-hmm.
And then I may hear a rhythm part, and then I may go home and, sorry about that.
It's all right.
I may go home and listen and say, oh man, this keyboard sound would work great for this part. This keyboard sound, guitar would work great here. And then I could hear it in my head. And then at that point, it's just a matter of finding that sound, whether I play it or whether a guitar plays it or a horn plays it or whatever. And what I do is I have a habit of singing into my phone so that I always got my ideas that are always with me. Yeah.
There's a song here on the new album called Ja, and that's sort of the Rastafarian god as far as best I know. But I wanted you to talk about the significance and meaning behind that tune.
Okay, well, originally, to be honest with you, I had the track. The music was done. I already had it. Put the groove together, and then I reached out to a friend of mine, Lamel Humes, who was a great writer he did a lot of stuff with Stephanie Mills and wrote some hit songs for her and other people. And we through our publishers, I believe, is how we first made contact. I liked what he did. I asked him would he be interested in writing some lyrics for this song, and he came up with that. That was his whole concept. So he came to me and he said, man, listen, what do you think about this? He said, I know some people are not spiritual like that, or they don't want to. I said, hey, man, that's great to me, man. I love what you did to it. I love it. It fits. Let's just, maybe we need to tweak this, tweak that a little bit, and then let's go for it. So I give credit to Lamel Humes for that beautiful melody and those lyrics. That I'm actually working on right now, a new version of it, a remix version of it. So that's going to be that should be released within the next couple of months.
Where do you feel like, can you just talk, especially about some of this stuff maybe how long has all this material taken to put together? Has some of this stuff been on the shelf for a minute? And I guess the subset question to that is just how have you learned to, and why do you feel like you're in an inspirational sort of flow right now, where you're doing remixes and there's little germs of songs that come and you put them in your phone. It's not always like that, or maybe it is for some people. It is, but where does the inspiration come from for Eaves in 2024?
Well, first of all, I'm always listening to something, and then let me say this humbly. I am music.
Yeah.
I can't get away from music.
Yeah.
I'm a slave, like Grace Jones used to say, I'm a slave to the rhythm. I wake up, I sing. I wake up, I beat. I hear drums. I hear, every place I go, if there's music, I hear it. I can't help it. If I'm shopping and it's, wherever it is, I'm listening, and I'm not always liking. I'm not always saying I love everything I hear.
No.
But I'm always open to hear it and listen. So I can't help it. It's just who I am, and that's who I've always been. And it's gotten probably even more so lately now that I've gotten into production and sounds and putting things together. So it's just who I am. Now, what was the question? I want to make sure.
No, Mike. So yeah, okay. So you have always been. I mean, I feel the same. And actually, for me, I just immediately get like an endorphin or serotonin rush when I hear rhythm too in music. It just immediately gives me a higher plane wherever I'm operating at. But I just meant I just meant like it seems like you're producing a lot of your own interpretations of tunes or originals, and I just wanted to know, and that's fine. You hear stuff in the supermarket, you're whether you like it or not, the music is in your ears. But I guess this idea of creation, where has this inspiration for creation come from in 2024 for you? I mean, maybe you'll say it's never ebbed, but I'm just saying that for a lot of cats, sometimes it comes in waves, and then there's other times where you're still obviously taking the music in, but you're not as inspired to write or produce or create.
Well, let me say this: I'll be 78 Saturday, 2 more days, and I've been doing this. I've been playing in clubs since I was 16, so I've been doing a lot of. I've had a lot of songs. I've been doing stuff for a lot of different people over the years with people. And I've only recorded under my own name 1 album in my 60 years of doing...
Yeah, because you know what? It's the sickest esoteric funk.
Esoteric funk.
I mean, by far... you know what? It's quality over quantity, my man.
Well, I appreciate that.
And I also know what you're going to say. You're going to say is that I want to do more under my own name.
Well, that's what this was about.
Right.
That's what my new album Drops is about. And in my new album, even newer than that, More Drops, which is the instrumental versions of some of the Drops songs. Because some of the Drops in one volume are vocals, have vocals on them. And so I wanted a completely instrumental versions of those songs. But what I will say also is, back in the late 70s, I went into the studio to do, I had written 3 songs and I wanted to record them as demos. And I had Reggie Lucas playing guitar.
Oh, my God.
James Mtume was playing percussion. Harry Whitaker was playing electric piano with me. Howard King was playing drums. And then I had what's his name? Harry. I can't remember his last name right at this moment.
Well, you said Harry Whitaker.
No, that's a keyboard. But there's another Harry who was playing bass.
Harry.
Yeah.
Oh my God! It sounds like a Roy Ayers kind of vibe there.
Well, this was more.
No, I know those cats. I just know those names from his early 70s. Yeah.
Harry Cardew. That's his name.
What's his last name? What's his last name?
Cardew. Cardew.
Whoa, I don't know that name. Wow.
No, he wasn't. Well, his brother's a drummer. His brother's a pretty well-known drummer, but he wasn't as well known as a bass player. But
what studios did you go into, by the way?
I'm sorry.
What studio did you do this at?
This was called Minot. MINOT. This is where I recorded the Esoteric Funk album.
Oh my God, dude! This is so ridiculous. Go ahead.
So anyway, I went and I did these 3 songs, and I played one of the songs called "Love Eyes" for a bass player named John Lee. And
dude,
John
I know that man. I know, dude. Him and Jerry Brown, man.
Yeah. Well, I had recorded with John Lee and Jerry Brown in Europe on an album called Infinite Jones.
Are you kidding me, dude? You're on that album?
Oh, yeah.
Dude, that is it. I've never seen an original pressing. That is a major. Is Gary on that too?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. In fact, I was with Gary at the time. We were over in Europe, and that's how that's when we met Jerry and John.
And they were like, "Yo, come in the studio with us right then."
Yeah, we were over there for the Montreux Jazz Festival. This was in
73. Yeah.
73, right.
And so, so you did Infinite. You had John. I'm sorry, John Lee going back to Minot Studio. How do you pronounce it? Minot.
Minot. Yeah.
Minot. Yeah.
So anyway, I actually played the song "Love Eyes" for John Lee, and he heard it and he said, "Oh man, I'm doing an album for flute player Art Webb."
Yeah.
So he says, "Man, this song would be perfect for Art Webb." And so, anyway, I said, "Sure, yeah, let's do it." So we went in and we recorded that song, and Art Webb has his version of it, and a couple of other people. Al Foster has a version of it, and so anyway, but I still had the original demo always sitting there on the shelf. So let me fast forward.
Right.
During COVID, as I was, stuck in the house, basically, we wasn't moving around and so forth, I went back and started listening to all my older stuff that I had sitting on the shelf. And that particular song and another song that I actually went in and sang at Minot at the same session, it was an R&B song called Ripped Off for My Love. And it was a funny song. That's the only song I ever really tried to sing. But anyway, I listened to him and I was like, man, the sound of this stuff really jumps out at me.
Oh, I love it, dude. This is so, and so you're talking about. This is the stuff you did demos with those cats.
I did demos with back in the early
with Lucas 70s. And Whitaker and those cats.
Yeah. Like back in the late 80s and
late 70s. You said.
Yeah. So I said, man, I'm gonna master these songs. I want to see what they sound like mastered. And so I sent them out to PM Mastering, which is Herb Powers, who also did my D-Train stuff. You're the One for Me and Keep On and those songs. And so I've had a great relationship with him, and I knew he would do the best he could and bring it home. And once I heard them, I said, man, I got to put these on my album because I've been wanting to do another album. And, they're on my new Drops album now. And those songs, and here's the point that I brought this up. Reggie is gone, deceased. Gone.
Yeah.
My man, Reggie Lucas.
No, I feel like he passed around the COVID time or before or when?
Yeah, that was around that time. Maybe just before. Yeah, just before. Because, so Reggie passed. Mtume passed about a year ago. Harry Whitaker passed about maybe 6-7 years ago, maybe. Howard King was in a life-threatening accident. So that those two songs have a very, very, very special meaning to me. And what the guys did, the contributions that they made to those songs is like. Back then, like you said, everything always live, no sequencing, none of that. And the only thing we did was we had Howard play to a click track. That's it, just to get started, to make sure we all were in time together. But we all played loosely around that time. So those are on the new album, which I'm proud of. And then I decided to do the Round Midnight and the My Foolish Heart as a tribute to my dad. My dad would always say, yeah, I know you're good with the R&B stuff. I know you got your name around in New York. And, I know Stephanie Mills and different people, but I love, my dad is a jazz head. That's all he ever wanted me to play. He's like, look, I like that stuff.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah. Okay,
No,
but
it's you're feeding your family doing that stuff, and it's good. It's really
yeah,
good.
but no, I love that stuff. That's part of me too.
I know, totally, bro. No, I get you.
Yeah, I mean,
Your dad sounds like one of the hippest cats in the world.
my dad was jazz 24 hours a day. And radio, when you go in his house, it never stops. It was always that. And my dad was also one of the town barbers in a little small town in St. Paul. And in his barber shop, his jukebox always had the hippest jazz on. So
damn, he had like Horace Silver, the Jazz Crusaders, like the crossovers. Yeah.
All of that. Gene Almonds.
Oh my God,
Miles Davis. And I worked in his barbershop as a kid. So I always heard that stuff, man. I couldn't get away from it. I took it in even when I didn't realize I was taking it in.
Now, okay, the tune that you hipped John Lee to, Eyes, Love Eyes. I'm not seeing that's on More Drops Volume 2.
No, that's on more. That's on Drops Volume 1.
Drops Volume 1. Okay, that's good to know. This is like very important. And Mtume was playing percussion on that.
Yeah, he's playing percussion. Like I said, Harry Whitaker's playing some great electric piano. I love how he and I played together. In fact, we also played together in Roberta Flack's band, so that's how I knew. We got back together again later.
Yeah, I'm looking here. Back to back here, Love Eyes and Ripped. I mean, this is going to be flowing all day, and so the mastering came out. I mean, there's still something there, right? I mean, there's just something that cannot be replaced when you have absolute shaman players basically all hitting at the same time, right? You just can never replace that.
Right, we were all there in the studio at the same time, and the picture on, well, just like an Esoteric Funk, the pictures on the album cover show us in the studio all together.
Now, now we're talking about the album that anybody can order for Drops Volume 1.
Yes, and also the videos for Drops are all released on YouTube as well.
Oh my God, this is so beautiful for people to know. I feel like I just remember, I interviewed Jimmy Heath very, very serendipitously a while ago, and I called him up one day, and his wife answered, and she was so generous. I said, "Hey, do you have Mtume's number?" And she's like, "Sure." And so she gives me his number. She gives me Tootie's number. But Mtume and I really, I'm not going to pretend that it was some sort of, musical massive connection, but we really had a ball. We did 3 hours worth of interviews, and we just felt like we were in sync, and yet I am not, being who I am, I'm into that Miles Davis, the really early stuff that Mtume was doing on Strata East, and then it's like New York Undercover. He did all that soundtrack stuff, and but I wanted you to just talk about what you learned. It doesn't even have to be a technical thing. I mean, what was his genius, and what have you taken and borrowed from him in your own creations, not playing wise, but just in across the board?
Well, one thing, Mtume, you could tell just from his sense of humor that he had kind of, we used to call him, he had like a twinkle. Harry Whitaker used to call him the mind bender.
Dude, he is the mind bender, man.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah. So he, Mtume was just a kind of a natural born leader, in the sense that he could, anybody around him. He had a lot of knowledge of a lot of different things and especially music, because he was brought up with the Heath brothers and his dad, his whole family was music, and so his creativity was kind of like off the charts in a sense, and plus he came up in Philadelphia and
also like he went out and started the US organization, Kwanzaa, and then he gave all of Herbie's band and the M1 at early 70s, he gave them all Swahili names.
Yeah. He was that was him.
Yeah, so, I know, it's ingenious. But then how did you guys cross paths?
I met him through Reggie Lucas.
Yes.
Reggie and I had become close from I can't remember exactly how we met, but we were in the band with Gary Bartz. And we met Mtume during that period. I believe that's when it was. And we clicked right away, but it was kind of superficial in the sense that Mtume was brought up with around a lot of great musicians and piano players, and he was kind of skeptical of me. He didn't know if I was really good.
Yeah, no, it's when you're growing up around like. Freak, I can't even think right now. But yeah, I mean, he was growing up around all the cats, yeah.
Yeah, I had to earn his respect, so to speak. At first, he would look at me with one eye, like, okay, let me see, who is this dude?
I mean, the dude was like, he was like exposed to John Lewis and people like that, It was like,
yeah. So, and I'm coming from, especially since, I had an R&B background as well. So, but he wanted to get into R&B and so forth because he was so deeply involved in jazz and his background and so forth. But he wasn't making any kind of money.
Right.
And that did kind of inspire us all at a certain point to say, wait a minute, man, we're doing gigs and we're playing till 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning, and we're coming home with $50 or $100 at the most, and you got to feed your families, and your things are not happening right as far as your bills and so forth. So you got to figure out a way to do it, and you want to stay in music. You don't want to go outside of music. So you want to start putting yourself in situations where you can at least, because I remember the first time. I got into the band with Roberta Flack, which Mtume was already there, and Reggie, and they helped pull me into that band. And wow. I remember just going into the rehearsals with Roberta. We got $60 to do a rehearsal, paid rehearsal.
We got paid rehearsal. I love that's it. There you go, 5 days a week.
And I was like, whoa, man, I've never made that kind of money
so
like that
sick.
for a rehearsal. I was getting that for a gig.
Yeah, you were dragging the roads on your back, man. And the
man. That's right. I ended up fast forward having back surgery. So
so then you get the rehearsal pay, and then maybe you got a per diem on the road. But
you got a per diem on the road, and then you got for every concert you got a few $100. You're like, man, this is living.
But to be clear, because it's so revelatory. Obviously, during that time, you're playing all those dance floor hits, Feel Like Making Love, all that stuff.
Yeah. Exactly.
You weren't. I mean, my point is, you weren't playing jazz. And the other thing is that what's just so amazing to me. Speaking of Roberta Flack, is just I remember talking to Eddie Henderson and Keith Kilgo, the drummer from the Blackbirds, and it was like, I mean, Roberta Flack went to Howard University. And there was no jazz curriculum. That was the devil's music. She got a classical training. Eddie Henderson almost got shot by a security guard for playing Killer Joe in the practice room in '64. I mean, it is remarkable that this music was never trusted by society. And obviously, as you know very well, it didn't really pay that well because it was in so many ways esoteric in a lot of ways. And so here you are playing mainstream music, getting paid for it, and and who can argue with that? Because you're still staying within the music, and that's what you're called to do.
Well, and not only that, the experience that it taught. it taught me. I mean,
Well, what did it teach you?
Sensitivity. Working with Roberta Flack, because of her touch and because of the market that she was in, strumming my pain with his fingers. You know, those kind of songs. You had to be, and now. Let me just say this.
Yeah.
When Reggie and Mtume told Roberta Flack, you got to get this guy Hubert Eaves in the band, man. He's the baddest. He's the baddest synthesizer player on the East Coast.
Wow.
Now, granted, at that point, I had one little micro Moog synthesizer that I was just learning how to play. And I did not know anything, much more than, how to play some blues lines and so forth. So, anyway, so they tell her this, and then so she says, okay, well, on you guys' word, I'll take him in, and we'll see how it works out, because she had just released this song.
Killing Me Softly.
No, not Still Killing Me Softly. The Closer I Get to You.
Right.
That Mtume and Reggie wrote.
Right.
And so I would go on. I went on the road with her and as a trial run. And as I was trying to find my way into the band and try to play and so forth, I was struggling so hard. It was ridiculous. I was like all in the way, and it was just a hot mess. and Harry Whitaker was playing piano, and
who was
Harry Whitaker,
and who's on drums?
Howard King was playing drums
for Roberta Flack.
With Roberta Flack. Yeah.
Wait, it was Mtume, Lucas, Whitaker, and you?
Yeah.
That is the sickest. Anyway, so they basically were like, kind of like stretching the truth, saying you're the baddest synth player. You were just kind of getting your sea legs.
Oh, no, they weren't stretching the truth. They was lying.
No, but dude, it's so funny. Go ahead, man. Continue.
So anyway, I remember this, man. This is I was playing and struggling. I even started drinking because I couldn't relax. I was like, oh man, I was really struggling in my head trying to fit into the band.
Yeah.
As to the parts that I would have rather played piano. I would have been more comfortable, but because of synthesis, I was new to it and so forth. Anyway, I remember we were in a rehearsal one day, and up until then, Roberta would look at me with one eye, like, "Oh, what the hell are you doing?
Why are you even here?" Yeah, right.
Oh, why are you even here? Why would these guys lie to me like that? So I remember this, and we were doing, the closer. Rehearsing The Closer I Get to You, and Reggie had this box connected to his guitar that. I liked the sound of it, and I was like, "Oh man, that sound is crazy, man." I said, "I wonder what that would sound like if I hooked that up to the string machine." And I was just really curious. And Reggie said, "Well, take it, man. Why don't you just take it into the hotel room and play around with it, and you can use it, because I'm not really using it." And so I did, and I came up with this sound, and I surprised everybody by. When we came back to that night to do The Closer I Get to You, the record had this this haunting, beautiful sound that Ronnie, I can't think of his last name, but Ronnie Foster played.
Oh my God! Yeah.
On the album. But anyway, when we got to the song, I pulled it out and played the parts, and that sound just took over. And Roberta Flack looked at me on stage, and she just started smiling. And then everybody else looked at me, and they all started smiling. It was like it was the almost exact sound that was on the record. And from that point on, everybody, we kind of got together afterwards, and it was all lovey, laughy, love. And all of a sudden, I just started relaxing, and then I started experimenting and trying different things. And I'd take the keyboard with me in the room in the hotel, and then I would try different things. The next thing you know, Roberta was calling me for every gig.
Dude, I got to be honest, man. That just touched my heart, and that's like it's not an uncommon story in that beautiful tribe of music where your boys love you and bring you in because they know you're the real deal, and you're scuffling around for a while, and you can't get out of your own way, and you're trying to relax and fit, and then all of a sudden some fuzz box or whatever it is comes along, and you're just in your hotel room and just sort of, kind of just surrendering. I mean, it wasn't like you were going to quit the band, but things were not feeling that great. And there you come up with this seminal part for this song, and there that realization, that one-eye realization from Roberta Flack, and then, right there, it's over. It's done.
Well, it's like this, man. That's why I try to keep my ears open at all times.
That's right.
Because if I hadn't heard that sound that Reggie had, that would have never happened like that. And it goes back to something my dad used to always tell me. He would say this. He said, "Man, the only thing better than knowledge is the extension of that knowledge, and it keeps extending." And I've always kept that.
Damn, that is freaking deep, man.
I keep that. My dad was deep, man.
That is one of the deepest. That is so freaking deep. I mean, I also would just say, you're an artist and a creative, and you're with really cool, deep cats. Like, it's about keeping your ears open, and it's also about keeping your mind open, because you could have looked at Reggie and been so down on yourself to be like, what's the point, man? I don't want to deal with that. Forget it. But no, you were like, let me see what I can do with it. I mean, I think that's what I'm, it's just, as I wrap up with you here, it's just, my older daughter's about to head off for her freshman year at Princeton. And, she's got, there are articles everywhere, Hubert. I don't know if you have any kids, college age anymore, but it's like, the amount of anxiety within kids today is incredible, and as a result, they mask that by wanting to sort of project ahead in their lives and get through 4 years and get it. And it's like you're starting your freshman year. You don't really know anything. How about keeping an open mind to the possibilities? And that, to me, is a perfect example of what you just talked about. Again, you weren't a college-age kid, but here it is, you're just, let me see what I can do with, let me take the box, even though he's playing it with a guitar, and then all of a sudden you come up with this tone and sound that just fits what was on the record. And that only comes, obviously, huge ears, but you embrace that. And I just feel like that is also a seminal thing, and I'm also talking about myself, too, exposing myself to different types of music, which I have since coming out of COVID, and being inspired by it, and realizing that it is all music, and that's the magic of it, man.
Well, you just said one word, and as I'm looking on my wall in my studio, I have a picture of Herbie Hancock and myself. He's signing his autobiography book for me, and I think you said the word possibilities. He's got an album called Possibilities. And he's been one of my major, major, major influences as a pianist, as a musician, as a man ever since I first heard him back in the days with Miles Davis, and My Funny Valentine and all those records.
Oh, forget about it. Yeah. Did you see him with that band with Ron C. and Tony, or no?
Oh yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So go on Possibilities. Riff on that. Yeah.
Oh no. I'd rather riff on Herbie.
Yeah. Go ahead. No, please go ahead.
Because he was one of the ones that has always been open, and has proven, his track record proves it all over. So he's inspired so many of us to back then and currently, and he will go down in history as one of the greatest, and already is.
Yeah, I mean, it's because of that. He's constantly pushing himself out of his comfort zone and is open to possibilities of new musical vocabulary. And if you just stay in your comfort zone, you atrophy and you get less inspired. And it's a delicate balancing act. But I'll tell you, man, I can feel the spirits of Mtume and Reggie Lucas with us today, and I'm so fired up to go back to dig into these tracks on drops. And next time I'm back east, I'll be back east more than I live in Tucson, but now that my daughters are going to be at Princeton, I'll be back more. I definitely would love to come and meet you in person, man. I always get a good feeling from these transmissions.
Oh yeah, great. I'd love to meet you too, man. And if you really want to get the spirit of Reggie and Mtume and Howard, now listen to on my Drops album. Listen to Love Eyes. No,
dude, it's going to be on rotation all day long.
All right. I appreciate it because I'm really proud of this album because, like I said, it's dedicated to my dad, and those two songs are dedicated to Reggie, Harry, and Mtume, and Howard. So
well, let me ask you a question. Before I let you go, I mean, so publishing, which we talked about last time, doesn't go as far today. So how are you kind of just? How can people find the album, and are you kind of just in typical fashion, just sort of giving it away for free? How can people access it? How can people support you?
They can go to Hubert Eaves III.com. That's HUBERTEAV like Victor ESIII.com. And my website will be there, and it'll take you to everything you need to know about Hubert Eaves. Not everything, but.
All right, man. Let's stay in touch, man. I'm gonna text you when I listen to those tunes. Man, it's a big Reggie Lucas Mtume day for me.
Okay, great, man. Thanks, bro.
Yeah, be cool, man.
You too, and your audience. I love you all. Thank you for your support. All right.
Love you too, man. Be cool.
All right.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
Bye.